Welcome to Church Experience Online. We're so happy you joined us today. As you watch this teaching video, if you have any questions or need help getting connected, please don't hesitate to reach out by phone or email. Also, our website is the best place to go if you would like to access helpful growth step resources, join a serving team, connect in a life group, get your questions answered, or support this movement financially by giving online. At the end of this teaching video, you'll hear one of our Church Experience Worship original songs, and we hope that gives you an opportunity to worship and reflect on what you learned. Thanks again for joining us at Church Experience Online.
Can you think of one of your favorite places to eat right now? Probably it's a bad time to ask because you're probably starting to get hungry for some lunch. Well, I'll tell you what, Sunday lunches for me have for quite some time now been one of my favorite meals all week. Because usually by the time I eat, it's mid-afternoon and I am just starving. I'm so hungry. It's been hours since I've eaten and I'm just ready to eat. And we had a specific place that we had gone to usually when we were done, with the whole setup. We have services and then we break down. And we've had a place that we've gone to, frequented for a long time, as a place down in Safety Harbor called Crispers. Now, whether or not you've eaten at Crispers, I'll tell you about it. It was an amazing place to eat. They have really good food. It was healthy food, and it tasted great. But they also had ice cream for the kids, so the kids loved it because they could go kind of pick out ice cream afterward. And usually, whoever's like the last people here after we're done loading the last truck at the end of the day, it's like mid-afternoon. The gate shuts on the last truck, and we're ready to pull out of here. It's like, hey, who wants to go for lunch? And usually a handful of us will get together, and we'll go find a place to eat, and it's just been a long-standing tradition. And Crispers was probably one of the places that we had been to more than any. And I like going there. The kids would have fun, like spread their toys out on the table and stuff like that. And I loved hanging out with them there. I loved sitting with the adults, and we'd talk after the long day and just all the cool things God did. And it's just been a cool thing. Well, as much as I loved it, as many memories as I have there, I was so sad the other day because someone said to me, they're like, hey, did you hear that Crispers closed? And I was like, what? They closed? What are you talking about? I just never saw that coming. I always thought they would just be there, and it was a great place, and I just thought it was just going to be a part of like my life, And they said, no, it's closed. It's done. I'm thinking, man, we had so many great memories. We'd go eat. We'd go walk on the fishing pier down at Safety Harbor, and man, it was the place, and now I'm not going to have that memory anymore. Now, we still have a crew that goes out for lunch, and you can stick around, break down with us, and go out with us. Well, we usually go out and we'll find a spot. We have some new places now we'll go and enjoy. But man, I'll tell you what, I miss what we had. And when it changed, letting go was hard. Do you remember the last time that something changed on you unexpectedly? And you had something that you were familiar with, you enjoyed, it was a part of your life, and then out of nowhere, it just shifted on you. It changed, and things were different. And maybe on a much more difficult level is when things that really matter to us change. Because it's one thing for a restaurant to close down that you enjoyed, and you can get over that, and it's all good. But when something that you really were attached to changes, maybe your career changed unexpectedly, not chosen by you, and you find yourself looking for a job, or maybe your relationship changed, maybe your health changed. And when we look out in the future for all of us, regardless of the changes that we've been through in the past, the one thing that they say is constant, the one thing we know is coming, is there will be more changes in the unseen future. We know that life is going to change on us. So when we talk about the unseen, we have to talk about change. And I think this is the best way we can wrap up this teaching series, because change for all of us is difficult to navigate. It's hard to work through change. It's not easy. Change is hard on us. And I used to think that I was good with change. When I was younger, I used to think, man, I'm good with change. I like variety, which I do, and all that, so I have no problem with change. And then I started to mature a little bit, and I realized that it's not that I like change, I'm good with change. It's I like change when I'm the one initiating it. And after some time, after you go through some changes, you realize that the reason why a lot of people don't like change is it's the changes that you didn't start, the ones that you didn't have control of, the ones that life brought to you unexpectedly, the changes imposed on you by others. Those are the changes that we seem to have the most difficult time handling. But change is a part of life, and no one seems to like it. No one seems to like imposed change. In fact, it was Mark Twain, one of my favorite quotes on change. He said, nobody likes change except a baby with a dirty diaper, and even the baby cries about it, right? Like nobody likes change. It's not like we want to go through it, but change is something that's a part of our lives, and you know what? Sometimes those are good changes. Sometimes they're even brought on by God. It's true, He brings changes into our lives. Isaiah chapter 43, verse 19. See, I am doing a new thing, says the Lord. I'm doing a new thing. Now it springs up. Do you not perceive it? I am making a way in the wilderness and streams in the wasteland. So sometimes God brings the change into our lives, and that can be a very good thing, right? Sometimes that can be a very good thing. They say that not every change is an improvement, but every improvement requires change. So if you want to see improvement in your life, you have to change, right? And they say that not every change is progress, but if you want to see progress, you have to be willing to change. And so sometimes God stirs up change in our life. Sometimes He allows it or even initiates it so that He can take us to a better place, to take us to the next level in our lives. So that happens, and we have to just kind of deal with that. And sometimes we're thankful for change. Thank you, God, for this new season I'm in, right? Because what you've been praying for is now you're seeing the payoff, right? What you've been persevering through, you're now seeing as the coming promised land, and you're excited about it. You're like, okay, God, yes, I'm in for change. But even when good changes come, there's new things you have to adapt to, and you have to figure out, and you have to learn new things. And change is difficult. When we think about the unseen, change is certainly one of the most challenging parts of the unknown in our life. We might lose something or someone we love, and there's change. Hardships might bring change. Discomfort, inconvenience, these things can all be aroused by change. So how do we work through change in a way that brings us closer to God and closer to the vision that He has for us? Well, there's two things that we need to know. These are in your notes. There's two things that we need to know that are more important than what's changing. And then we're going to go on and we're going to talk about two opportunities we have in the midst of change. So two opportunities, but first let's talk about two things that are more important than what's changing. One is who you are. What's more important than what's changing in your life? And I want you to think about what's changing in your life right now. What could change? Maybe what keeps you up at night because you're fearful of this could change in my life. What's more important than that thing changing or that potentially is unchanging, that's changing in your life, the thing that's more important than that is who you are. Who you are. Because when you hit change, when you run into change, there's usually a reaction. Right? When you hit change, there's a reaction in our lives. And, I talked to a friend, and I said, hey, I'm trying to illustrate this message. I'm talking about when change hits our life and who we are, there's our character, and I'm ultimately going to talk about here, what wins out, in those moments. I said, so can you think of an illustration? And he said, you know what? Have you ever searched, Brandon, for a visual of what happens when pure sodium hits water? Have you ever? And I'm like, oh man, I'm going to search that. I'm going to check it out. So I did some digging and check out what I found. It's pretty cool.
When you mix salt into water, you normally get a very safe product like salt water. But under special conditions, mixing the two together can result in a massive explosion. So today, that's exactly what we're going to try to do. So I'm going to be using this Morton kosher salt, but I'm pretty sure that any table salt will work. Next, I put it into my furnace, turn on the propane, and just blast it until it melts. Well, let's see what happens.
2, 1.
This explosion was totally awesome and a total surprise. I was expecting a little bit of splattering, but what I got was like a full-on powerful explosion. Look at the cavitation bubbles on the glass, and it just shattered it. I think we should try again. An experiment has to be repeatable to be valid. Even at 7,000 frames per second, the explosion is nearly instantaneous. You can see just a small amount of sodium chloride salt could create this huge gas bubble. And just when I think it's over, there's more little explosions happening on the inside surface of this gas bubble. You know, that actually looks pretty peaceful. I mean, pretty peaceful for a cloud filled with molten salt expanding at several thousand feet per second that's trying to kill you. It still looks pretty nice.
You know, YouTube has provided a platform for all of the students in high school that got kicked out of chemistry class, right? For all the unapproved experiments that they had in the back of the room. Now they're allowed to do it. Now they can show the world. It's a great thing. But you know, it's interesting, you know, to watch this. It's called a single change reaction. And what happens is you have like a compound, right? And then there's this free element that comes in and it switches places. It's like a substitution. And it comes in and it causes this huge reaction. This what you could call a chain reaction, an event that sets off other events, and there's this massive explosion. And it's really interesting to watch it, especially up close, to see all that happens when these things come together, when they collide. And you know what's interesting about our lives is that when change slams into our life, it hits up against our character, against our faith. And one of those will be stronger than the other. One of those will be pushed out. There'll be an exchange, a substitution. There'll be a reaction. And I think that for all of us, when we face change, our faith is perhaps one of the times it's tested the most. Our faith is challenged when we face change. We're put up against things that seem bigger than us, and we realize our limitations, our weaknesses when we face change. Change is difficult because it presses on our character, who we are. And for all of us, for character to be developed in our lives, it can't be developed just in the moment of change. Certainly it shapes you and sharpens you, but for you to navigate through change, you have to be prepared before it gets there. Daniel chapter 6, probably one of my favorite Old Testament verses. Daniel was faced with a change. There was a decree published in the land that you could not pray to anyone except for the king of the land. And Daniel knew that he wasn't going to pray to the king. He only prayed to God. And verse 10 is, again, probably one of my favorite verses. It says, when Daniel learned that the decree had been published, he went home to his upstairs room where the windows opened toward Jerusalem. 3 times a day he got down on his knees and he prayed, giving thanks to his God, just as he had done before. So it says that he had prayed just as he'd done before. So when the change came in his life, in this case it was a national change, the physical world around him was changing, but his spiritual world was unchanging. So he said, despite what's going on around me, what's more important than the changes happening is what's going to be unchanging, and that's who I am. I'm not going to bend just because everyone else is doing this, just because this is happening in the world, just because this is happening around me. I'm going to hold to the convictions in my faith, in my life. I'm going to continue to pray. I'm going to continue to spiritually grow closer to God. Now, I want you to imagine with me, if you will, that you have a friend that tells you, hey, I'm moving. And it's a change, and you're sad to hear that they're moving. But then the next thing that crosses your mind is they say, well, hey, I'm going to have a moving party. And you want to spend some time with them, but you don't necessarily get really excited about moving their couch. And you know, it's like, okay, well, man, I need to work out because they've invited me to help them move in 2 weeks. And I know it's going to be intense moving all these boxes, and they got a big couch. So I'm going to go work out. And so you go down to LA Fitness, and you get a membership, and the gal up front's asking you, so are you going to do it like the monthly membership? And you're like, no, it's all good. I'm only going to do this once or twice. I'm just trying to get buff before this moving party. And so you go in, and she kind of gives you a look, but you go in anyway, and you find the bench press, and you start pumping iron. You're like, and you're just working it, man. And you're working out, and you put the bar down, and what do? Of course, you do what everybody does. You go over to the mirrors, right? You stand in front of the mirror, and you're like, and you look and you're a little disappointed because your muscle looks just like it did when you walked in. And you think, well, there wasn't much change. And so you go back and you hit it a little bit harder. And you're just pumping it, right? And everyone's looking at you like, man, this guy's going for it. And you're just pumping it. And then you come in front of the mirror at the end of the day and you're like, yeah! And you're a little disappointed because nothing really changed, right? And so you go home and you think about it, and you're like, well, man, it didn't work. And so you decide, well, maybe I'll go back later this week. I'll try it this weekend. And you go back the weekend, you work out, no change, nothing different. So you think about it over the weekend, and you're like, I got to do something different. I only have 1 week to go until this moving party. What am I going to do? Of course, you think, well, now I have to go for it. I'm going to work out every single day. Monday to Sunday, I'm going to work out every day. I'm just going to get in there. I'm going to pump iron. So you're in there, you're doing some curls, man. You're doing everything. You're just lifting, pumping iron. And then at the end of the week, boom! Same thing, no change. And you're like, what's the deal? And then you go help your friend move his couch, and this time you're just exhausted because you've been working out all week and the couch is heavy. So you didn't do any good. And you're like, how come nothing changed? Well, we can have some fun with that, but you and I know the reality is the reason why there was no muscle there after a couple weeks is because it takes some time. And if you wait until change comes into your life, if you wait until there's a crisis to start working out your spiritual muscles, then you will be left unprepared to carry what God is trying to bring into your life. See, you and I, it cannot be just a destination thing that we get ready when it comes. It has to be a daily thing. And Daniel, you know what Daniel did? Daniel, it says he prayed 3 times a day just as he did before. So it's something that was a regular part of his life. It wasn't something that was initiated just because there was a change. It was something that was already taking place. So what are you doing to work out your spiritual muscles? You know, change is going to come into your life. And I think probably one of the most certain things that I could tell you would be to say that you will face some change, probably sooner than later. And so because you know that change is coming, because you know there'll be things that are overwhelming and that are uncomfortable and upsetting it to you at times, and things are going to come into your life, and it might be a phone call from a doctor or from a friend. It might be a change in your job or your circumstances, your situation, your health, your finances. You know those changes are coming, so why not prepare for it now? Because who you are is going to come up against your world. And so when your world it comes up against who you are, one of those two things is going to win out. And if you develop your character now, if you develop your faith now, your trust and reliance upon God now, when you face change, you will be stronger and more equipped for it. You know, we want to help you do that. And one of the things that we offer is life groups. I'm going to talk about that in a moment, getting in community and connected. That's so important. But I also want to encourage you to do something right now if you haven't done it yet. Many of us have taken our phones out and we've downloaded the Church Experience app. You can go find it at the App Store or the Google Play Store. You can download it right on your phone. It's free. It's easy. Just put it on your phone. But if you haven't done that yet, let me tell you why you should do that. There's a few reasons. One is it mentions all the different cool things going on at the church that you can get connected. It's got the sign-up form on there on the upcoming section for life groups. But it's got some things to help you grow spiritually. We have the Bible on there, the digital Bible. You can hit play. It'll read it to you. All right. You say, I'm not a big reader. Well, you don't have to read. You can just listen. All right. It's got a Bible reading plan, so you can work through the Bible and you can read the Bible. We have some Growth Steps resources on there. When we hear of a good resource, we upload it, we put it on there and link to it. And so you can grow in your faith in one of these different areas. We have lots of different messages on there that you can listen to and worship music. But man, it just help you grow in your relationship with God. It can be something that you can use on a daily basis to help you grow. So I encourage you to take that step. So who you are is more important than what's changing, but there's something else. Who's with you is more important than what's changing. Who is with you is more important than what's changing. So I want to read to you from Psalm 46. And before I do that, you know, whenever you read a psalm, sometimes there's like a subheading underneath the chapter title. And in Psalm 46, it says, for the director of music of the sons of Korah. And you'll see this 11 times. There's 11 psalms that are penned under the heading of the sons of Korah. Who are the sons of Korah? I know who David is. He penned a lot of the psalms, King David, a nation of Israel. But who are the sons of Korah? Who are they? And their story is enlightening for what I'm about to read here in Psalm 46. But it's interesting that Korah himself, these are ancestors, descendants of Korah. Korah himself, along with 250 other men, tried to usurp the spiritual leadership of Moses and Aaron, the ones that God had called to lead the nation of Israel out of Egypt and into the promised land, and they were standing up against Moses and Aaron, and Moses said, well, come stand before God. If you have a problem and if nothing happens, then you carry on and you live and die a normal death, and then maybe this is something that God is allowing. But if something happens and God brings judgment on you, then this certainly was not of God. And Moses knew that this was not of God, what they were doing, and they stood before the people, they stood before God, and it's like a huge sinkhole. The ground literally moved underneath them. It opened up and swallowed this rebellious group, and they were gone. And what's interesting about that now, descendants of Korah, these sons of Korah, who later on went on to make better decisions than their ancestors. They went on to please God. They were mighty warriors. They were also known for their music. They were singers, and they were put in charge of David's household and overseeing music. And so the sons of Korah, they write these psalms, but they have this ancestry still that goes back sometimes. There's a lot of history with them. The nation of Israel knows about it, and it's just a lot of history there. Now listen to what they write. God is our refuge and strength, an ever-present help in trouble. Therefore we will not fear, though the earth give way. Though the earth give way and the mountains fall into the heart of the sea, though its waters roar and foam and the mountains quake with their surging. So regardless of whatever's going on in life, God is with you. And they write this lyric about in this psalm of though the earth give way. And they had to be thinking of their ancestry at this point and thinking about the judgment that God brought on their ancestors who were not faithful to him. And then to see where he's taken them as almost like the outcasts of the nation of Israel. Their family line did not have a good name. Korah was not a good name to have. Yet now at this point, King David was bringing them into leadership and bringing them into his household, to his throne, to his kingdom, and they're in a place of prominence. And now they're penning psalms to that God that their ancestors had rebelled against. And they say, though the earth may be moved from under us, we won't fear. You know, the mountains quake. And so here's the lesson. No matter what happens in our life, it's not about what's changing. It's about who's with you in the change. And God is with you in the change, regardless of what's changing. Though the mountains may fall into the sea, the world may fall apart, like God is unchanging and he's with you. So, what's changing in your life? What's changing? What is it in your life that's been a bit difficult because it's not like it used to be? What loss have you had? What things in the unseen, unknown future do you fear could happen? Do you live with an awareness that it could change? What's more important than that is who you are and who's with you. And God is with you. Isaiah chapter 26, verse 3. You will keep in perfect peace. You want perfect peace when you're going through changes? God will keep in perfect peace those whose minds are steadfast because they trust in you. Trust in the Lord forever, for the Lord himself is the rock eternal. Trust in the Lord with all your heart. As it says in Proverbs, lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he will make your path straight. He will lead you through the change. He will direct you and where you need to go. So trust in him. So who's with you is very important when you're going through change. So God is with you. And, pumping iron, you need a spotter. Usually you have a spotter standing over you to make sure that if it's too heavy for you, that you're not crushed under the weight of it, they can help you up. And so God is, in a sense, spotting you. But you know what else? He also wants some other people to spot you, to hold your arms up. And you need those people in your life. Do you have people in your life to hold your arms up when you're weak that know you? Because who's with you is really important, and certainly God is with you, but he's designed you to have others that are with you, to be in community, to be in connection, in relationship. You need this. This is one of the main things I love about being a part of a church because it provides some natural connection points, some opportunities for God's people to connect with each other, to support each other, to lift each other up. We have serving teams. There's a lot of great ways to get involved and serve and use your gifts to make a difference in the world. And most people live their lives just for themselves. It's very self-centered. In the end, it's lonely because you realize no matter how successful or not that you were, you lived your life for yourself, and it's pretty lonely. But if you live your life for others, investing in, influencing, impacting, lifting, raising others, it's a very fulfilling life. Even if it's a hard life, it's a very fulfilling life. It's a good life. And I think it's the best life there is. So get on serving teams. You can make a difference with your life, and you get to know other people that way. That's one of the main benefits is you get to know other people. But there's also another avenue called life groups. And we have some amazing life groups here, a whole list of them. You can get on our app, and you can click under upcoming and click on that form, and you can click through to a list and see all these different opportunities where you can get connected into a life group. And there's opportunities. We're wanting to start even more life groups. And so maybe God will tap someone in here, and they'll start a new group and get people connected. But getting people connected is so important because then you have people in your life that you can lean on when things are difficult. So do you have someone in your life that you can lean on? Do you have people around you? Do you have someone in your life that's got your back when times are tough? I remember back to one of my favorite seasons of life when we were married, and right before we had our first kid, we were in a life group, and we had some great friends, and there were 7 women that were all pregnant at the same time. That's a lot of hormones, by the way. That's a lot of hormones at the same time. And they were all pregnant at the same time. They're all friends, and a lot of them in this life group together. We're going through the ups and downs of life together and enjoying the journey together. The guys, we'd hang out together. We'd go play, like, before we had kids, like this late night game of Risk. We all got together, a whole crew of us, and we'd stay up, this game that lasts for hours. And we're staying up late into the night playing together, hanging out, talking. And we'd just go do stuff together. I mean, it was a great season of life. And I think, a lot of those relationships were formed, if not all of them, because we were part of a church together. And we got involved. We all stepped out of the crowd and said, well, I want to be a little more committed. I'm going to get involved. And we started serving. We got involved in the life group. We got connected, and friendships were formed, and relationships were built. I'm excited because one of the groups that we're starting, and I've been sharing with you starting last week, is that we're going to begin a Sunday night gathering that one day will probably become a service of its own. But we hear all the time people say, I have to work on Sunday morning. I can't make it. And so at 5:30 on Sunday night, starting September 10, we're going to have a Sunday night life group gathering, and might just start with a small group of us, but we're going to meet out in the concourse like we did before we started this church and moved into the auditorium, and we're going to gather out there. We'll have a few worship songs. I'll share the same message I'm sharing here on Sunday morning with that group, and we'll have some snacks afterward, let people connect, and at that same time, at 5:30, starting on the 10th, we will have a high school ministry for the very first time. I'm so excited about it. We'll have a high school ministry that's meeting every week. We've tried some events, but we're going to have a weekly high school student experience service for them at 5:30. It's going to be a great time for them going on simultaneously. And also during this service, something new. At the 11 o'clock service, we're going to add middle school student experience, which we have. That's been going on for a long time. Some of you didn't even know it existed, but it's been going on during the 9:30 service. We have kid experience and middle school student experience. Well, that's going to be the case now starting on September 10th during this service as well. So if you know students, if you know people who can't be here because they work, please invite them to come starting September 10th. And the whole reason is to help people get connected with each other so they can connect more with God. And there's a lot of different ways to do that, but I encourage you to step into community, get connected, and you'll see God do some amazing things in your life. I'm excited about next week, actually. It's Labor Day weekend, and we're going to have some bounce houses here and a special snack. It's going to be a great weekend, and we're starting a new teaching series called You Asked For It. And we're going to answer some questions that you've been asking. And if you have questions, please send more into us. But next week is a great week for you to invite somebody, not only because of the bounce houses and the snack and all that stuff, especially if they have kids, but next week I'm going to teach about why would a God in heaven send good people to hell? And it's probably a question that you've been asked, around the water cooler at work by a neighbor. Why would God send good people to hell? There's certainly some good people out there that don't believe in Jesus. They've done good things. How is it that our faith says that God would send people to hell in that way? We're going to talk about that, and it's going to be a great and impacted day. It's the perfect day to bring someone who might have those questions. Someone might have reservations. I don't even know if I believe in Christianity. Say, well, you should come with me this week. We're going to talk about that, and I think it'd be very interesting and helpful for you to know it, so I'm looking forward to that. But thinking back about who's with you, I want to encourage you to get connected. After you leave here today, I mentioned some opportunities, but there's a table going to be outside. Stop by and get connected in a group, and there's people that will help you sign up. You can do it through your app, but I encourage you, stop by, talk to them, get connected in a group. All right, let's go here. Change is an opportunity. There's two changes. There's two opportunities that we have in change. One is change is an opportunity to grow. Change is an opportunity to grow. It's not easy because it requires us to give up in order to go up, but change is difficult. Samuel Chan wrote a book called Leadership Pain, and he said, reluctance to face pain is your greatest limitation. There's no growth without change, no change without loss, and no loss without pain. So you can't grow unless you're willing to face and endure through pain. And if you're not willing to give up things that might be comfortable to you, things that might be familiar to you, then you won't be able to go up. You won't be able to grow up because you'll limit yourself. And part of change requires the loss of something. And loss, there's pain in that. And if you're not willing to face that, then it's going to be hard to grow. And so when we face change, we have to recognize it for what it is. It's an opportunity. It's an opportunity to grow, an opportunity to go to the next level. Psalm chapter 119. And I just ask you to think about what changes God may be doing in your life right now. What changes is God, is it possible that God is allowing this so that I can grow closer to him, so that I can move further to where he wants me to be. God has a plan for his people. Psalm 119, verse 71. It was good for me to be afflicted so that I might learn your decrees. You don't pray that prayer unless you've been through something and you're looking back on it with some maturity, right? Because when you're in the midst of pain, you're not usually like, oh, I'm so thankful for this pain I'm going through. I'm going through this hardship, this loss, this struggle, this thing I want but I'm not getting, this thing I'm praying for, God doesn't seem to answer, this thing that is not comfortable, that I don't enjoy. And we go through these seasons of life and they're extremely difficult. And they're painful. We have some kind of a loss, some kind of a change, some kind of unseen, unknown thing in our future, in our lives. But with maturity and with time, and it's not easy, but you can look back even on the worst things in life and you can say, you know what, even in my affliction, I would never have chosen that, but I can see how God brought good out of that. He grew me up in that time. Because maybe my faith was actually not as strong as I thought it was. Maybe my faith was only as good as my situation. So in other words, God, as long as everything's good for me, as long as everything goes how I want it, because I'm trying to control my life, then God, I'll give you praise. Then God, I'll live for you. But when things don't go how I want, when I'm afflicted, when I'm in pain, when things are hard, then I'm not going to worship you. And we all have the ups and downs of life and the emotions that flow in that, but with maturity, you can look back and you can pray as it was here in the Psalms. You know, even in my affliction, God, I see that you were using that for my good. So God, you've always been good even when my situation wasn't good, and even when you allow things to happen that I don't perceive as good, that might not be seem like a good thing, God, you're working all things, as it says in Romans 8, for the good of those who love you, who are living for you. And so view change as an opportunity to grow. How can I grow from this? Even if it's not easy, how can I grow, even if it's painful? A part of that, there's a spiritual layer underneath all of that. There's a spiritual layer that's huge. Several years ago, I read a book, read part of the book. I didn't even finish it. It was a huge book, and it was an intense book, but I read enough that I got the heart of it, and I was like, man, I got to remember this principle the rest of my life. It was a book called Desiring God. Author's name is John Piper, and he said, this is the great business of life, to put our mouths out of taste for those pleasures which the tempter baits his hooks. Listen to this. He says, I know of no other way to triumph over sin long term than to gain a distaste for it because of a superior satisfaction in God. God remains gloriously all-satisfying in the human heart. I saved it because I love this, what he said. He said, the human heart remains a ceaseless factory of desires. Feast on God. So he says, you know, your heart is constantly bringing up new distractions, new ways, new desires to pull you away from your God desire, which is your ultimate desire. And all these little things that the devil uses to kind of bait his hook, and he kind of tempts you, and well, why don't you run after this? I think you really want this. And we chase down all these like side roads trying to get some kind of satisfaction or fulfillment in our life, and we never get there. And the only way to overcome that, to overcome sin in our life and to mature and to grow up, and even in changes and hardship, is to say, you know what, God, I see you, God, clearly now more than ever. You are more gloriously all-satisfying, as he said, more than anything else that I could go after and run after. God, you will fulfill me more than any of these things. And so that next job's not going to be it. That next relationship is not going to be it. That next step in my future or my career, my life, that next step in my finances, that next goal I'm going after, that next season, that next trip, that next moment, that next experience, none of those things can compare to what I have now, and that's a relationship with you. But I need to see that relationship for what it is first, most important, gloriously all-satisfying. And until we see Jesus for who he is, we'll chase after lesser things. And so part of change is it upsets the false idols in our life that we can hold on to. It creates a chain reaction, or what I would call a change reaction. See, when you face change, there's a reaction. And usually it goes like this. I don't like it because my thing was messed up, and what about me, and I have this preference, and I like this, and I don't want this, and I do want to do this, and there's this change reaction when change collides with my comfort. And my comfort is unsettled, and I realize that I've been comfort seeking instead of satisfaction seeking. And when you change that and you start to pursue things that fulfill you and satisfy you, things that are God pleasing in your life, and not just the things that make you comfortable, because those are not the same. The things that make you comfortable are always not satisfying in the end, and the things that are satisfying in the end are not always comfortable in the beginning. And so when you learn to pace your life and place your life in God's hands and say, God, I'm on your course, I'm following your path, regardless of what it feels like, what it looks like, God, I'm going to live to please you, then you can look at the changes of life and say, do your worst. Do your worst, because it's not about me. I've shifted. I'm pleasing, living to please God. You probably have some, like I do in my house, some place, some drawer, some bag, some box somewhere that's got a bunch of like random stuff in it, you know, a junk drawer. And one of the items that you probably have in there is some old keys. You know, we all have these keys that used to unlock a door, maybe in an old house that we lived in, and maybe it's an old box that had a lock on it, and you kept it, maybe a storage container, and you have all these locks, you know, it's an old padlock or something, and it had this lock system, and you have all these keys, and you don't know what to do with them, because if you get rid of them, what can happen? Well, you could find that thing that has a lock on it in the garage, and then if you don't have the key for it, you can't get into it. You might need to get into it. So you kind of hold on to it. You're like, I'm going to put it in the drawer. I'm going to put it in that box. And then over time, what happens over the years, you have all these keys mixed together, and you don't know which ones are new and which ones are from the old place and where you used to live and back in the day. And so you just got all these keys, and you don't want to get rid of any of them because you might need one of them in there one day. Well, I realized I had a little accumulation of keys laying around in different places we lived, and I was like, you know, I'm just going to give these to the kids. And so I gave these keys to the kids, and I saw them the other day. They were trading them. A couple of my kids were trading the keys, like they had this value to them, and which one they wanted, which one was worth more and better and greater. And I think God gave me kind of this insight as I was watching that. You know, there's a lot of things that I think we tend to assign value to that really has absolutely no value. This doesn't unlock anything for us. It just is what it is. It's just kind of some loose metal in our life that's just kind of laying there, and it doesn't really have a lot of value, but we hold on to these things, and we think, well, this really matters to me, and this is so important, and really it's not, and when God disrupts that through change, which sometimes is of Him, and we see it for what it is, we mature because we start to see what we really value. We start to see what we're holding on to, and God grows us, and that brings us to the final lesson, is it's not only can we grow, but sometimes we can make progress through change. And what is it that you're facing right now? What changes are you facing? Is it possible that God is trying to move you to a better place? And directionally, he's trying to take you to a higher place. He's trying to elevate your life and mix something up inside of you through what you're going through. Is it possible that God's wanting to do something new in your heart, to step up into something, to move ahead, to move forward? You know, change is hard, they say, because we overestimate the value of what we're holding on to, but we underestimate the value of what we gain by letting go. And it was Isaac Newton in his first law of motion that said everything continues in a state of rest unless compelled to change by other forces impressed upon it. And sometimes God has to allow forces to impress upon us to get us to move out of what you might call our comfort zone, our area of comfort, our comfort seeking. And He needs to press on our lives a little bit so that we will actually see the error of our ways, or what we're missing out on, or what we need to let go of. And sometimes it's not from Him. Sometimes it's because we live in a sinful, fallen world, in a broken world. But as change comes into your life, see it as an opportunity to make progress. See it as an opportunity to grow. When I look back to being single, it's kind of funny because Jennifer and I have been together now for so many years, married 15, 18 years we've been together. And I think about, you know, someone the other day, they said, hey, man, your home is decorated very nice. I'm like, well, Jennifer's a designer, decorator. It's completely her. It has nothing to do with me. And I was thinking back to when I was single. I had surfing posters taped to my wall. I had a lawn chair in my living room. It's like I even eat different. I mean, everything changed. I eat different now. Like I used to have the horrible combination of Taco Bell and Pop-Tarts was like a diet thing. You know, it's like that's what I was eating. It's like everything changed now. Like everything became better, I think. But man, it really changed. And I realized though when I got married how selfish I was. Because I used to wake up every day and think, what do I want to do today? And I would do that, whatever I wanted to do. I would just kind of go do that. And what's on the schedule? Whatever I want to put on the schedule, right? How do I want to set up my place? However I want to set it up. And then I got married and I realized that there's this other person there. And I had to be like, wake up and say, well, what do you want to do today? You know, and there's this compromise, this is working together. And how do you think we should set up the place? Well, your idea's a lot better than me. What do you think we should eat? You have a better idea again. Where do you think we should go? And we would just kind of compromise. We would work together. And I realized I was pretty selfish. I didn't think I was selfish when I was single, but my life revolved around myself. It was just kind of like how it was. I didn't have to care for anybody else. It was just kind of like my life and what I did. And then I had a kid. And I realized when I had a child that my life was even more selfish than I thought. Because I got used to working with somebody else, but we could both go do our own thing and we could do what we wanted to do. But now we had to ask the question of like, well, what do we do with this in the middle of the night when it's screaming, right? And what do we do with this dirty diaper? Like someone's got to do that. And it's not just like I got to figure out how to coordinate our schedules. Now there's a responsibility, someone who's dependent on me. And then we had more kids and there was more responsibilities. And I just kind of realized the more I went along in life so far, and I'm just on the journey like you, but I realized how selfish I used to be. And I realized how God's making me more and more selfless, and I probably don't see the areas that I'm self-centered in now. I probably don't see that, but I'll bet you that God's going to change something in my life over time, and I'm going to look back and like, man, I used to be pretty self-centered. I didn't know I was. I didn't think I was. I gave a lot of time in my life to help others, to serve others, but man, there was part of me that was still holding on to something, and I don't maybe know what that is, but you know what, God, that's what he's doing in your life. Did you realize that? Whatever seasons you are and your circumstances are different and your season of life is different, but think about it. Is it possible that you can kind of look back and say, well, I used to be this way and God's changing me, but if you don't understand that, then what you're not aware of is that there's other areas that he still wants to win. There's more mountains to take. There's more things that God wants to grow in you. And you look back and you see how the change has matured you. But when you look into the unseen, you don't want to face those. You don't want to go there. You avoid that. I don't want change. But God says, hey, listen, just like I changed you back here and now you're in a better place, I'm going to have to change some more things to get you where I need to go. And so we can make progress and change, and we can be okay with that. We can be at peace with that because of who's with us. It's God that's with us. So what is changing in your life? What might need to change in you or around you? What is it that God is doing? I want to close with this verse from Hebrews chapter 13, verse 8, and I want to encourage you in this. It says, Jesus Christ is the same yesterday, today, and forever. Jesus Christ is unchanging. And you can be certain that your life will change. I hope it changes for the good. I hope your life changes for the better. I hope that thing that you're hoping for happens and the thing you're praying about it occurs. I hope it does. I hope for the best. I hope for you for up and to the right. I hope that things move ahead and move on and all that. But even if it doesn't, even if things change and it goes the other direction or it doesn't go where you want, here's what you can know. Here's what you can count on with absolute certainty. That even though life is unpredictable, even though life is painful, even though life ends in death of our physical mortal bodies, even though life is filled with changes, there's one thing that's unchanging. And that's the love of Jesus Christ. He's unchanging. He's the same yesterday, today, and forever. He will always remain. He will always be crazy about you. And even when your world is being rocked, you have a rock that you can stand on. You have a refuge that you can run to when life is hard. So don't push him away when things change. Draw him in. God, I need you in this moment. I don't understand it, but I need you. God, hear my heart in this. My heart's breaking, but God, I need you. And he will always be there for you. He will always love you, and he will always lead you kindly through the changes of life. Right on?
Thanks for joining us at Church Experience Online. Please don't forget to check out the website if you'd like to get more connected, learn more, get your questions answered, or support this movement financially. You're now going to hear a Church Experience Worship original song, and we hope this gives you an opportunity to worship and reflect on what you learned today.
Yet to come, we're stepping out. Jesus, we trust in you. You always do what no one else could do. You speak and